There's so much information available on the internet that sometimes it can be hard for people to interpret everything that they get. I'm a firm believer in spending all the time that's necessary in order for patients and their families to fully understand what's going on to make a good decision.
Hi, Max Brantley with the Arkansas Times on Monday, October 2nd. Another bad start to a week. Early this morning, we learned that late last night in Las Vegas, Nevada, a man named Stephen Paddock, 64 years old, started shooting from a 32nd floor room in the Mandalay Bay Hotel down on a crowd of 22,000 at a music festival outdoors on the street below, 400 or 500 yards away. He opened fire with weapons that sounded a lot like automatic weapons to people who heard the gunfire. We don't know yet precisely what weapons he used. We do know at least 58 people are dead and 515 people at last count are injured, some from gunshot wounds, some from the chaos that ensued after the shooting broke out. Well, as happens on these sorts of things and the enormity of such a tragedy, politicians are often left, as they were in Arkansas, with the usual thoughts and prayers remarks that they become almost cliche. What else can you say? They could talk about what other places have done. Australia, after a mass shooting 20 years ago, took strong gun control measures, confiscated 1 million or bought back 1 million firearms. There's been no repeat of mass episodes in Australia since, and a drop in the homicide rate. Asa Hutchinson was one small exception from those merely offering thoughts and prayers. He's been an NRA spokesman. No, he didn't call for gun control. He said we need to take a look at stronger security measures at public events. Well, unless those security measures in Las Vegas had included security sweeps and metal detection at all the surrounding buildings, it wouldn't have done much to prevent the slaughter last night in Nevada. A lot of people on the right, particularly people who support the NRA, are saying this is not the time to talk about gun control. We should wait to do that. If this is not the time, I don't know when, but we know from past mass shooting episodes that Congress is not likely to act. Well, elsewhere, Puerto Rico remains a giant human tragedy as well, and people are dying in Puerto Rico as well for lack of care. The U.S. government is ramping up its efforts. Donald Trump has come under tremendous fire as measured by his fusillade of tweets defending himself and attacking others in Puerto Rico. Because of his response, he doesn't seem to care as much about Puerto Rico as he does about Florida and Texas. Nonetheless, the effort is getting better, but the enormity of the situation is huge. The FEMA director, however, didn't distinguish himself by saying that the U.S. has never faced a logistical problem like this. Well, we landed a man on the moon, we invaded Normandy, we fought a battle throughout isolated islands in the South Pacific during World War II in a time of much less technology. I think we can get some diesel fuel and water and food and medical supplies to Puerto Rico. Perhaps eventually we will. Yesterday, an interesting development, I thought, in the ongoing protest that's helped Donald Trump divide the nation over NFL players who want to make statements about police brutality and inequality in America who did some kneeling for the national anthem. Well, a whole team in Baltimore yesterday did as the Dallas Cowboys had done a week before and took a knee and prayed before the national anthem, then stood respectfully for the national anthem itself. They were still booed. This is not about the flag. Anybody who thinks it is has been kidding themselves anyway. This is about people who don't like what the black players and their sympathizers are saying, who want them to shut up before the anthem, during the anthem, after the anthem, and for days and weeks and months afterward. That's what this is about. Jack Greene is a man who committed a serious murder, a brutal murder in Johnson County more than 20 years ago. He's scheduled to die November 9th. He has an appeal mounted. There's a clemency hearing scheduled for him Wednesday. His lawyers at least are going to argue he's mentally incompetent and should not be executed. That board will make a recommendation to the governor. Political news on the city front, an interesting sort. A man named Russ Racop, who some people who follow these things know is a very active blogger who specializes in the Freedom of Information Act, digging up ethical miscues by public officials. He's gone after Jerry Jones for gifts to North Little Rock cops, the Alcoholic Beverage Control Division, Faulkner County Prosecutor Cody Highland, the city government of Little Rock, and in the process has turned up a lot of information. Just yesterday, the Democrat Gazette wrote a story about some funny business in spending of state money at the insistence of some state legislators on a do-nothing outfit in Saline County. Well, Russ Racop broke that story 10 months ago. He's got a kind of checkered record himself, including a domestic civil case and some criminal cases that'll give voters some pause, but he's going to run against Doris Wright for Ward 6. He's She's already pointed out her close ties to real estate developers and her spending of city money on self-promotional activities at a radio station and magazine. He's certainly somebody who can stir things up, perhaps somewhat in the Trumpian fashion, if not necessarily from his political point of view. Other news on the weekend was interesting. There's been a startling drop in the teen pregnancy rate in the United States, a 50% drop over the last few years. Unprecedented, really. Unfortunately, Arkansas hasn't measured that drop. We still rank #1 in teen pregnancy. The national study thinks that contraception makes a big difference. Perhaps it's only coincidental that the Democrat Gazette wrote a deep story a week or so ago about something we've long known. That is, Arkansas schools don't like to teach sex education. Most of them don't. If they teach anything at all, they just teach abstinence. And we know urging teenagers just not to have sex is not a particularly effective or comprehensive approach to sex education. But that's Arkansas for you. I'm Max Brantley. I'm resisting. You do too. I'll be back tomorrow.